Hopefully you watched part 1 of the one-point perspective drawing that gave you basic information. This is an extension of that particular lesson in which we will explore what you might find in the hallway. Supplies you'll need 8.5 by 11 paper or sketchbook paper. You will need a straight edge. You will need a pencil. And if you want optional, you can have a roll of tape where you tape down the corners of your paper so it doesn't move on you. I'm going to start this one a little differently than I did the other one so that you can see that there's more than one way to start your one-point perspective. The first one, I drew the horizon line first. This time, I'm going to draw the box first. And the box, in this case, is going to be the furthest wall at the end of my hallway. Yes. You can turn your paper portrait style or landscape style for this one. It doesn't matter. I'm going to continue with landscape style just because. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw the box. I'm starting differently than I did for the other one. And the box, I don't want to be dead center, obviously. And so I'm going to lift it up a little bit. I'm going to make it right in here. Let's say right there, here. And it's a little bit more square, just because. It doesn't have to be. It can be more rectangular if you would like. So I have the box. The first thing I want to do is draw the horizon line through the box. Dead center? No. Low? If you're sitting on the floor drawing, that would be okay. You'll get an interesting viewpoint on how that all maps out. But it makes it difficult in terms of deciding where your doors go. Because remember, it is eye level. So let's make that person standing just for grins and giggles, right? I'm going to put my horizon line about right here, about a third from the top. If I were to divide this into thirds, that works pretty good. Vanishing point, not dead center, off just a little bit. Here's the deal. I don't want that vanishing point way off on the edge. If I put it too far over, your perspective is going to be really skewed. It looks cool, it really does, but for a beginner, I don't suggest it. Here's center, come off center just a little bit, put my point. Voila. Now the first thing I would normally tell you is we would draw corner to vanishing point, right? But what if, this is really cool, I'm going to share this with you. What if you were at school and you were drawing a hallway that T-boned into another hallway? What would that look like? If you take the two sidelines and lift them up a little bit, I don't know how far up, it will depend on your vanishing point. So there it is, right? And I'm going to decide where that falls. So I want it to be even. So I'm going to put a point here and a point here. So they're even, right? And then I can decide down here where I want that to go. I'm going to put a point and a point so that those lines are even. So this one was a little longer, right? I could erase that. Erase this one. Voila. It kind of looks like an H with two crossbars, right? I want to connect this point to those end points. I'm going to practice my density of line, lighter, darker. Or you could make everything light because it may get erased anyway. And you want to be able to erase. If you draw really, really dark lines, you won't be able to erase if you need to. Try and keep my paper straight for you guys. let's say we have, as we're walking down, another hallway to the side that comes out the side there. You decide where you want to put it because you're the artist. I'm going to draw 2 parallel lines. Those 2 lines go where I want that. But what if I wanted that line to be here? Notice it goes off the page. If that's where it would meet, that's okay. It goes off the page. All right? Don't worry about it. Now, so that you can see it better, I'm going to make it so it doesn't go off the page. I'm going to draw my line right here. Okay, so now I've got 2 lines. Remember, this is going to be a disappearing hallway. So the line closest to the vanishing point, here's this point, I'm going to take and I'm going to make my rectangle, right? I'm just going to take a horizontal line there, and I'm going to come up here and do the same thing. Whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. And if I take my eraser and erase this part of the floor line, so you can see it, voila! Lockers. One of the other things that you might see in the hallway might be a set of lockers. Now, lockers are probably one of the most difficult things for my students to draw. I'm going to draw a set that's not very big. And I'm going to start by saying that the lockers, usually, the top of the locker is just right above that person's head. So here's the horizon line, right? Vanishing point, horizon line. What I want to do is bring this line to the floor right here, okay? This is going to be my locker in profile. The bottom of the locker forms an L. So we're going to have an L here. At this point where it intersects, I'm going to come out with a small line. You decide how wide you want those lockers to be, okay? All right. Now, let's talk about the top of the locker and the side. I'm going to make this profile. Really, what I'm doing is drawing a shape in profile, and then I'll use my vanishing point. So, I'm going to go ahead and draw this line up here. And then most of lockers slant. This slanting line does not go to the vanishing point. It's an arbitrary slanting line. It might be slanted a little bit, it might be slanted a lot. You, as the artist, decide. Okay, so I'm going to make it slant like this because I don't want it to be the same as my vanishing point. This is just the profile. That is the shape of the locker in profile. That's it. That's all. Before I go any further, I'm going to erase the horizon line inside it and that back low line, just so you can see that shape. These points here that hang out, this point's already going to the vanishing point, right there, right? All 4 of these points go to that vanishing point. So this is what it might look like. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to draw it lightly. Okay, and it go, again, I would stop it because that's the way I am. But if you want to draw it all the way to that vanishing point so you see it, that's fine. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to come here. All right. Now you need to decide how far out that locker goes. Is it going to stop before it gets to this corner? Most lockers probably would. So here's this corner, right? I want it to stop about right here. What I'm going to do is a guideline point. So I'm just going to slide it up. And if I were able to see inside that locker, I could see this inside line. And so that's going to be the outer corner. Make sense? I'm going to take this line straight up, like so. Now, I'm going to do a little erasing. I'm going to erase what's back behind there. so that you can see it better. And again, if you drew too dark, and I almost did, you won't be able to erase. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and draw this a little darker so you can see it. I'm not really practicing density right now, but just want you to see it. Okay, so there's the front. There's the side. Now we need to do the roof. Here's the deal about the roof. I have decided that that's the profile shape, right? Take your ruler and keep it as straight as you can so it's parallel to that line until you get to the corner, and then you can draw that little back part. Okay? So there's the top of those lockers. We have to put in the locker doors, right? Here's where it gets a little tricky. And you might want to do a little measuring. You want to take this line right here and divide it in half. And it's almost 2 inches. It's not quite. I'm just going to line it up so there are 2 and 2 there. So there's the middle. Okay? There's the middle right there. Take my vanishing point. So everything is going to the vanishing point. You know, really what I tell my students is everything is either horizontal, vertical, or it goes to the vanishing point unless it is part of a profile line, like this top of this roof of that set of lockers. So now, again, using my vanishing point, I'm lining it in with this point right here. You know, the beauty of video is that you can back it up and watch again if you didn't get it the first time. You can stop it and draw with me. Like every time I draw something, stop it, you draw, check and see if it matches what I've got, and then keep going. It's great. So hopefully you're doing that. Now I want to put doors in here. I can put 4 doors. I can put 3 doors. But I have to practice my size relationship. So I kind of eyeball it. I go, well, if I want to put a door and he's this size, the next one has to be a little bit bigger and the next one bigger. Well, that's not going to work because that makes this last one really small. So I know I have to move those points over. And, I realize that's not really a great scientific way to do it. There's probably a better way. In fact, I know there is. But this is basics, right? We're just eyeballing. So you decide how many doors you want to put in here. Because mine is rather small, I'm just going to do 3. And one door is going to be here. The next one has to be a little bit bigger than that space. And it has to be so that this is even bigger. And that works. Once I get those dots where it looks like they're going to work for me, I can drop those lines down. And of course, there's a little frame around each one of these, and you can use your vanishing point and draw that little frame so you actually get the door itself in there. And that would be details that would make it look really cool. But let's talk about the handle. Most of these handles have these little reset boxes type things in them so that they can fit that little block in there. But here's the deal. Anytime you put something that's in a row, it's got to line up with the vanishing point. So you might want to put a guideline. I'm going to put a little guideline here, and I want to make that the same distance. So I'll put a little dot there. I'll use my vanishing point and do one at the bottom as well. And that's just a guideline for where I want to put that. And then you need to decide if it's going to be on the right side or the left side. Probably the left side, right? Hinges on this side. And I'm just going to actually, okay, so I'm going to use the vanishing point again. Draw these little boxes. There's the top. And I am freehanding this just because I'm lazy. Yep. and just kind of give you an idea of where they might be. You could put in more detail. You probably will have a bigger piece of paper, and you do the same thing on the bottom as well. Most of these hallways have lights. The only thing you can do with the lights is draw the shape. If you want to make it look like it's a real light, you can't have light without dark, and you can't have dark without light. So you would have to actually shade around it to get that bright white for that light. So I'm going to put in guidelines here, decide where I want those lights to start, and I'll do a row of lights. Again, size relationship. So one light might be this big, distance between it here. This light may be a little bit bigger, distance between it here and here. So when I draw them, I'm going to draw the door so that it goes over the horizon line. If I don't do that, somebody's going to hit their head, right? I know that for the Regent Zest door, it's going to be a little bit like this hallway here. I'm going to draw a rectangle, oops, yep, a rectangle, like so, voila. There's a water fountain. There's a water fountain right here. That's hot, right? What does a water fountain look like? A water fountain is going to be low. You know, if I were to divide this space right here in half, that water fountain would probably be about right in here, right? And what I want to do is I'm going to draw the profile, whatever that profile shape might be. So I'm going to draw the profile, and our water fountains kind of look like this. Drop this down, and it has a little spot here, like this, and sometimes it's rounded, like so. Okay, so it might be rounded. We'll make ours rounded, just because we'll have some rounded stuff in here. So that's the profile. If I have a fire extinguisher box, you draw the profile first. For box, it would just be a rectangle, right? So there's the profile. I know what it looks like. Then I'm going to use all these points that are hanging out to go to my vanishing point. Edges here, and of course that part goes to the vanishing point. I just kind of eyeballed it, but so now what do I do with this part right here? Well, if this was a box like so, that would go to the vanishing point, right? That would go to the vanishing point. So really what you want to do is where it's tangent, I guess if you were a mathematician, if there was a tangent line right here, okay, at that point where it curves, and right here on the outside of this curve, those are going to go to the vanishing point. So if you have a curve, you can still use the vanishing point. I'm going to make my guideline there. Make my guideline, like so, right? And then what happens is where this drops down, it's going to round it. It's going to round it right there, right? Well, what happens here? Well, if you draw this line right here, so this back corner point, and come down, okay, that's about where this is going to stop, and then it's going to basically mirror this curve, and it would come up and like this, you know, if you could see back behind it. But if we can't see behind it, we'll erase that. Yay! Voila! Very cool, right? Cool. Well, we still have to put the little water spigot thing out. And for most, on this one, it probably would be on the left-hand side, I think. So back behind this curve a little bit, and it's going to curve and just kind of be a thing like this. Maybe. You might see a little spot there. I don't know. You'll have to kind of look at that one part of it. But that gives you a basic idea of what that using the profile would mean. If I want to put a poster or a display case or anything up here that has writing, so let's put a poster. We were the Tigers. Now you have an extension of the 1-point perspective. There's more that we could add, some fun things, but this gives you a start. Now, you have to use your observation to apply this idea. In other words, you go out, you look at a room, what does it look like? How can you use this system to help you draw that room better?